All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Fixed Ops Mastermind. Normally we have two guests, but when your screen is filled up with Glenn Lundy, you only need one guest for this show.
Hey, what a way to start the show. That's what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
You're flattering me. I'm blushing.
There you go. There you go. Glenn, welcome to the show. Appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule to come and hang out with us and do what you do best, which is help give back and educate the automotive industry.
Yeah, thank you, man. We do try to stay very productive around here, that's for sure. But there's no place I'd rather be than right here with you. So thank you.
Excellent. Appreciate that. And so we're going to start out. We've got three segments to get through. Segment one is going to be foundations of success, building relationships, overcoming adversity. Segment two will be crafting your identity, talking about building a brand in your circle of influence. And then segment three will be from insight to action, where we'll close it out with some takeaways for everybody to go on their way and help and improve themselves in this industry. And so,
yeah, sounds perfect.
For those who may not know who Glenn Lundy is, give them a little introduction. Let them know, what your background is and how you got here.
Yeah, my name is Glenn Lundy. I am a husband to one, a father to 8. I have 8 beautiful, beautiful, beautiful little babies. I am also the owner of the 800% Elite Automotive Club, which is a training and development program for owners and GMs of car dealerships all over North America. I'm also the former general manager at the second largest used car franchise dealership in the country. I am a 2-time author. I am also the host. I used to be the host of a show called #Rise and Grind, where we did 1,500 episodes. So I like doing a lot of stuff in the media space. And I've been in the car business since 1999 with a little hiatus where I tried to get out. You know how it is. You try to get out, but once it's in the blood, it's in the blood.
I've tried to get out a couple of times myself. It doesn't work.
It just doesn't work, man. It just doesn't work. So I finally realized, this is where we're going to be. Let's make it the best opportunity we can possibly have. And I've fallen in love with this industry over the years. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely seems to be the proper place for your journey. That's for sure.
Yeah, man, we're having a good time.
Yeah. And so,
and I'm also the owner of a new car dealership that opens on August 5th, 800% Elite Auto Sales. I almost forgot that. I gotta get used to adding that to the intro there, the bio.
Yeah, you got to add that one in there.
Yes, sir.
That's an exciting next step in the process.
Yeah, it's cool.
And I'm sure the customers that come and visit will appreciate the experience that they get there, because I'm sure it's going to be different than most places that they go to.
It'll be a very unique experience for sure, and it is very important to me that the customers that come in and choose to do business with us, we want to make sure that it's very memorable, and we want to make sure that that we make an impact, a positive impact in their lives. So those things are important to me. I will say though, what's more important to me is our team. I am creating an environment where our team can thrive, our team can grow, our team can be developed. We want to make an impact in our team's lives. And so I just am a firm believer that if we can create a place where the people who we invest the biggest amount of time with, if we can create a place where they are excited, motivated, and inspired to work, then it can't help but create an amazing experience for our customers, which ultimately will create an amazing experience for my financial statement in the end. So our philosophy is, and I think the best way to say this is, we believe it's important to love our customers better than we love our products, but it's even more important that we love our people even more than we love our customers. And that's really what we're building with 800% Elite Auto Sales.
Yeah, that's a lesson that a lot still need to learn, right? That the profits don't come first.
Right.
You don't make the money first.
Right.
You've got to have the team, and the happy customers don't come first either, right? You've got to have the team there that's put together properly that can create those happy customers that then create that income at
Yeah.
the end of it.
I think over the last, probably 100 years since the Industrial Revolution, I think that's when things kind of got flipped on their head a little bit.
Yeah.
Everything became profit first,
Mhm.
product second, customer third,
Yeah.
employee last.
Right.
It's really, I mean, that's if we really map it out,
Yeah.
that's how most businesses, especially the bigger businesses, have been built in this country over the last 100 years. And I think there was a season for that where that probably worked, right?
Right.
Especially in earlier days when people didn't have global access to all
Mhm.
the information that exists on the planet.
Right.
Global access to all companies that exist on this planet. People have
Mhm.
choices. You can be 13 years old and make $14 million a year on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Like things have changed quite a bit. And
Right.
so I really believe that we have to create better, for lack of a better word, like a better mousetrap. And the
Mhm.
way that we do that is by flipping it upside down. Instead of profit, product, consumer, employee, let's go employee, consumer, product, profit.
Right.
And now we can compete in a new landscape, I believe.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And in that beginning of that industrial revolution, right? Everything was about production. And it
Correct.
was about how you could create and build the next product a little bit faster, right?
Right.
And that made it an easy way to continue to measure people, right?
Mhm.
But as you said, the world is different now. And
Way
we're not building widgets. There are
That's
still
right.
people that are building widgets, but there's a lot of other things that are being done, and you can't measure that productivity as easily.
Correct.
It's not activity now that shows productivity.
Yeah,
So
and before, if you lived in small town Paris, Kentucky, let's say, as an example,
yeah,
if you lived in small town Paris, Kentucky, you had, a couple handfuls of jobs to choose
mhm,
from. You could go work at the factory, you could work at the grocery store, you could, there's a couple different places that you could work.
yeah,
But now, well, there's
yeah,
millions of jobs that
right,
people can do in all sorts of different ways and different facets on different time schedules, and different personalities are going to lean to different things, and the digital transformation is incredible. And so now, to be competitive in the marketplace, if you really want to build a strong, solid business, you have to figure out a way to um, get people to choose you out
right,
of millions of places. Before, it was like we just chose how many people we want. Now
right,
you got to get the people to choose
yeah,
to invest their lives in time into us.
right. And back then, it was. I was discussing this earlier with someone else about it's not driving down the street now and seeing a sign for that business, right?
No,
If you're online, you need to be you need people to be able to find you and see you, and that's where the value of relationships comes in,
for
right? So
sure.
you did your hashtag Rise and Grind show. Um, Forever kudos to that, man. I'm not a 5:30 a.m. guy. So how you
Yeah,
did that for so long blows my mind. But you know, through that, you built a lot of relationships, and
sure.
you were pretty intentional about that. That wasn't by accident. And so, what is it? What is it that made you understand that building relationships was a great way forward?
Well, I think that when you really look at the experiences of life and you read story after story and you study successful people and things like that, when you look for common denominators, there's really only like a handful of things that are common across all successful people, right? One common denominator is all successful people have a disciplined, consistent morning routine, right? No matter Now, some of them wake up at 2 in the afternoon, but the
Right.
first hour
Yeah.
or 2 hours of the day are consistent, and they usually tap into mind, body, and spirit, right? And so I learned that. When I learned that, I created my own morning routine, which I ended up writing a book about, the Morning Five. And that's really where the show, the Rise and Grind show, 5:30 a.m., I was in a position to be able to take advantage of that opportunity because I had already created this behavior pattern of waking up and doing things disciplined every single day. So that's one. But another pattern that is clear across all of them is that there is always another human that opened a door, created an access point, taught something, educated. Like I've done, hundreds and hundreds of interviews, and every successful person I interview will talk about a relationship. They'll talk about a mentor. They'll talk about someone who gave them an opportunity or invited them to be a part of something, right? There's always another human involved, no matter what level you look at. And so understanding that and understanding that your relationships are the doorways to the opportunities that you're looking for in your life to reach and achieve your dreams. As soon as you understand that someone's got to unlock that door or someone's got to at least guide you to it, now it's like, okay, well, we got to take this relationship thing seriously.
Right.
Also, I found through experience is when the relationships around you aren't strong, it's incredibly difficult to reach higher levels of success. It's incredibly difficult to break out of limiting mindsets. It's incredibly difficult to achieve at a high level when you're surrounded with those that don't support that or encourage that or fuel that in some way, shape, or form. So it's kind of double-sided. Like you need people to get the things that you want in life. And at the same time, you need people to keep you from falling short of your potential.
Yeah, I think that is still. I mean, people talk about the 5 people closest to you having influence on you, but I think people undervalue that.
Yeah, big time.
It makes a huge difference. You can be a positive mindset person, but if you've got 4 of the 5 people that are close to you that are constantly saying that can't be done, you can't do that, it's going to be difficult to break through that.
Yeah, no doubt.
And so those are some of the strategies that you're using to face adversity. And I know maybe a little more of your story than some people do, but I know you face some difficult adversity
Sure.
As you were coming up. And so what advice would you give to somebody who is coming up now, or maybe is 15 years in the car business, but they're struggling to build those meaningful relationships to get them to the next level?
Yeah, so a couple pieces of advice on that. As far as you touched on, my journey just a little bit, and there was a season of life where I was in and out of jail, and ultimately ended up homeless and in a deep state of depression. That depression led to suicidal thoughts, which ultimately led to a suicide attempt. I tried to take my own life. And in doing so, luckily for me, God plucked me out of the ocean, literally put me on the beach and whispered some words of wisdom into my ear. And those words of wisdom were, you take yourself wherever you go. And at the time I didn't, I had heard that before, but I didn't really know what it meant. It was kind of like a fortune cookie, right? Like you take yourself wherever you go. Like, what the heck does that even mean? You crumple up a piece of paper and throw it away. But in that moment, after I had just experienced, what I had experienced, to hear those words, you take yourself wherever you go, it finally became very clear to me. And here's what it meant. It meant that no matter what city I was in, no matter what circle of friends I was around, or what environment, or what job, or whatever, every negative thing that I had created in my life stemmed from there was only like one constant in all of them, and it was me. I was the only constant. Cities were different, jobs were different, environments were different, people were different, seasons were different, the year was different, economy was different, all these things were different. The only thing that was there, me. So you take yourself wherever you go. And so once I realized that, I was like, oh, okay. I'm struggling relationally in a lot of ways. And I was always blaming other people for that.
Yeah.
But the reality was I was the problem, right? My friend Adam Marburger, right? You are the problem. That's what it's, he wrote a book titled that. It's actually, You Are the Effing Problem.
Effing problem, yeah.
And so, the advice that I would give is, first, you have to understand that you are the catalyst of all things positive and negative that happen in your life.
Yeah.
The second part of that is, or the second piece of advice I was given is, once you understand that, you now have to study. What does it mean to build relationships? How do I build relationships? Because you might have blind spots. You might have the heart where you want to build relationships, but you're struggling to do so because the way you speak comes off improper, the way you look, or your body language. It could be something as simple as you're talking too much when you need to just be listening more. It could be that you're trying to be interesting when it's important that you be more interested than interesting. And so you got to study, because nobody teaches us these things. There's no how to build relationships in high school. There's no, a lot of our parents don't know how to do it. They don't know how to build strong relationships. And so you got to really dive in and study. I suggest How to Win Friends and Influence People. I read that book twice a year at least. And then I will also reread it every time I'm getting ready to meet someone that's reached high levels of success, someone that I maybe look to and say, hey, I want to learn something from that person. I always read that book before I ever shake their hand, just as a reminder of how relationships are built, especially the strong and important ones. So that would be my advice. You take yourself wherever you go, know that, and then go study and really study, what does it mean to build powerful, meaningful relationships?
Yeah, especially that second point there is very important, because I think sometimes as human beings, we feel like we should know how to build a relationship, right? That it should come naturally,
right?
But it definitely does not.
It doesn't, unless you grew up in that environment. Like my kids are going to know big time how to build relationships. I bring them in those environments. They're shaking hands with adults. They're around big players all the time. But not everybody has had that experience, so you got to go out there and learn it.
Absolutely. This segment is brought to you by Parts Edge. Your parts department is the backbone of your dealership and is responsible for nearly half of your total profits, according to NADA. Our system works within your DMS for a hybrid approach that combines the precision of automation with the nuanced decision-making of parts experts. All right, and so that'll take us into segment 2, which was crafting your identity. And so in today's business environment, I'd like to know what your definition of a personal brand is, and then what steps would you take if you were starting over today? What steps would you take to build that personal brand?
I think that by definition, a personal brand is best defined as the external expectation that others have of you. That's how I would define a personal brand. It is the external expectation that others have of you.
Right.
What I would have done differently to build that, I think we've done a fairly decent job of building a good personal brand. People know what to expect with Glenn Lundy. They know that I'm going to be real, raw, authentic. They know that I've shared some crazy experiences in and out of jail, homeless, those types of things. We don't hide those things. They also know that I'm an early riser. They know that I'm going to be motivational, educational, and inspirational. They know I'm going to bring the energy. They know I'll work you under the table. They know a lot of those are these external expectations. They know I'm a good husband. They know I'm a good father. And I think we've done a good job of displaying all of those things throughout our social media channels, to where when you connect with my personal brand, you're going to get some business things that you can apply, but you're also going to get things that you can apply when it comes to your faith, your fitness, your family, your friends, your mental health, all these different aspects, right? I call them 8 different pillars of life. And so I think we've done a pretty good job. I would say, as far as what we would have done differently, I think we went a little too wide initially, to the point where we were kind of on every social media channel, posting 2 to 4 times a day. We had Glenn Lundy's personal Facebook page, Glenn Lundy's business Facebook page. Then we had, Rise and Grind's business page. And then we had 800% Elite Auto's business page. And then we had an Instagram personal Glenn Lundy and an Instagram business Glenn Lundy and an Instagram Rise and Grind and an Instagram 800%. And then we had, we really went wide, which, I'm a firm believer volume solves everything and you got to get that reach. The piece we were missing though is social media is not so much about the content that you post, it's about the community that you create. And so we were creating small communities across a ton of different platforms versus allowing those people to come together in one space consistently, where then when you start to build community, all this multiplication happens, right? Yeah. I hook up with David, and then David hooks up with JP, and then JP hooks up with Tustin, and then Tustin hooks up with so-and-so. So the larger we can build that community of like-hearted individuals, the better off it is for the community members themselves.
Yes.
So that's something I would have done differently, is just kind of lined it up. We're still on all the platforms, but there's just one place you go for the most part, a personal and a business, just for me. And we do that across platforms, but it's just not as scattered, and we're able to, hopefully, the reports have shown that helps us build a stronger community.
Yeah, I would agree with that, right? And the name of the show is the Fixed Ops Mastermind, taken from Napoleon Hill's Mastermind theory, right? Yep. Which is bringing people together so that our two minds can get together and create a third mind, right? So the more you can keep your community together, the stronger it is, and the better the ideas that will come out of that. I will tell you what I continued to hear as you were talking about that. I asked you a question about personal brand, and you used the word we and our over and over and over again, right? And it's super important, right? Yes. We're talking about relationships. You said it earlier that, there's always somebody else. There's always another human being, right? And it's the same thing in a personal brand. Nobody does any of this stuff alone.
That's right.
And it's called social media. It's not called alone media, right?
That's right.
You can't be social by yourself.
It's so interesting that you say that, because over the years, I've really been able to, focus on that. And it's interesting because I write a lot. I love to write. And when I'm writing, I'll notice that I'll write we or us when I really just mean me. Yeah. And sometimes I have to no, Glenn, there's no we in this particular sentence. Like, you can put the word I, but I really am adverse, because I used to live an I life.
Yep.
And I know where that got me. Yeah. And so I very much try to avoid the word I as much as humanly possible. But so I appreciate you catching that, because it helps me feel like I'm definitely continuing on that right path. I don't ever want to be an I guy.
Yeah, well, that's working out well, and we appreciate that.
Thank you.
And so in building a personal brand, right? Yeah. And in building those relationships, you start to create that circle of influence, right? And so what does your circle of influence mean to you? And how do you think someone's circle of influence can impact their career? And we talked about the 5 people closest to you. So sure. So obviously we've covered that part of it. But as somebody grows, those 5 people are going to change, right? They're not going to be the same in every season of your life. So I'll leave that with you. What does the circle of influence mean to you, or what do they mean to you? Yeah. And then how can it impact one's career as they move along?
Yeah. So my circle of influence it means everything to me. I learned long ago that energy itself is something that cannot be created, nor does it dissipate. It can only be converted. And so the circle of people around you, right, that whatever energy that they bring to the table, whether it be positive or negative, it ultimately is going to convert into something in your life, in your existence. So it's ridiculously important. And by circle of influence, that means, what are you watching on TV? What are you watching on social media? It's not just the people that, you break bread with on Tuesdays at, some, 20 group meeting or whatever. Like,
Right.
this is the circle of influence, is the music that you listen to. The circle of influence is, the preacher that you choose to allow to share their energy on Sunday afternoon, right? Like, it's a big deal. So
Yeah.
it means everything to me. And I think as we continue to try to reach our full potential as individuals, it's the one piece that you must keep the most weary of, because people will slide into your circle of influence, especially the higher the chain you climb. They'll slide into your circle of influence, and all empires are destroyed from the inside out. No empires are ever destroyed from the outside in. If you think about the story with oh my gosh, why am I blanking on it? The Trojan horse, right?
Trojan horse,
Trojan
yeah.
horse had to get inside the walls, and it was
Yep.
destroyed from the inside out. And if you look at every war and everything, it's always someone on the inside that ultimately affects these things. And so it's incredibly important. And I would suggest, for those of you that are wanting to create a powerful and strong circle of influence, one thing that I always keep in mind is, my circle of influence needs to be people that both look like me, think like me, walk like me, and talk like me, and don't look like me, don't walk like me, don't talk like me, and don't think like me.
Yeah.
It is incredibly important, I believe, in my journey, in my experience, it is incredibly important for me to be surrounded by people on all sides, from all perspectives, because it is very easy to get into a silo and have a bunch of people around you that shake their head and everyone's in agreement and we all align. And I think that's a big problem, or a big part of what's wrong with the world today. Or, there's a lot of things wrong with the world today, but I think that's a big part of it, is that social media has created silos. It's only going to feed you the things that you like. It's only going to feed you the people that look like you, walk like you, and talk like you. And so you think everyone in the world is in agreement with your, whatever it is, political belief, spiritual belief, biological beliefs, whatever. You think everybody's in your camp.
Right.
And then the minute you meet someone in the real world that doesn't, the reactions are division, hatred, anger, misunderstanding. And so I would suggest, as for those of you that are developing it out, be conscious of making sure that you're surrounding that your environment is filled with all sides and all perspectives. It makes you a better human. It makes life a little more balanced, and ultimately can help align you with those. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. My friend Heather Parody is the exact opposite of me politically. She's the exact opposite. Like, her perspective of the world is literally the exact opposite in so many ways. But her and I share a heart for impact, and we share a heart for people. So even though our minds are uniquely pointed in different directions, the heart that we share, she has become a muse to me. She has become one of the most important people in my life. And if I wouldn't have allowed, or if I would have had these divisional blocks where I only want people, that align with me, I never would have had the relationship that I have with her. It's been really powerful.
That's terrific. I just had Heather on the show a couple of weeks ago.
Phenomenal human, man.
Terrific person.
She's
and so
changed my life in a lot of ways.
She is amazing. She definitely thinks differently. That's for sure.
I love it. I love it. Her and I end every conversation with politic talk, just because we know that it's going to be like complete opposite perspective. But her and I meet every single week. We talk for an hour every single week, and we end the calls with political talk, just to laugh at each other's nonsense.
That's funny. That's beautiful. So I'm going to go back. So the first time you were on the mastermind, when it was
Yes.
our Tuesday night shows, right, when it was a private group, and
Yep.
this was, I'm not even sure when this was, 2019 maybe. It was a while ago that you
Yeah.
were on. And what you just touched on without saying the word was comfort, and how dangerous comfort is.
Sure.
And if you're on social media, it's feeding you what's comfortable to you, right? And in that show, you said, I don't ever want to be anywhere near comfort,
That's right.
because comfort is what they provide to people who are about to die.
That's right.
And that's stuck with me.
Yeah, man.
And I have brought that up many times, and you'll get some looks when you say,
For
that
sure.
to people. But if you've ever been there with somebody who is crossing over, that is exactly what they're doing. They are
No
making
doubt.
that person as comfortable as possible. And so totally agree with that. And as far as circle of influence, if you're super comfortable with everybody that's around you, you need some different people around you.
No doubt.
Because that is not going to take you to where you want to go. All right. So segment 3, which we said was insight to action. So we just want to give everybody a couple of takeaways that they can go and implement in their life if they haven't already grabbed onto something that you've said here. 2 points that somebody should do to start building a personal brand, which they should start doing today if they haven't
Sure.
already done that. And 2 points of how they should start building relationships.
So to start building a personal brand, it's going to require a thoughtful, intentional energy towards understanding who you are, who you were, and who you want to be. I know a lot of people that will just start posting different content, trying to copy and mirror other content creators, thinking that's going to be the thing that's going to take you to the top. And ultimately, that is not the experience. The social media superstars, influencers, those that have reached millions and millions of followers, so on and so forth, they all share a common trait, which is they're incredibly authentic to who they are, like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting from a psychological standpoint is usually the people we can help the most are the people who are where we were.
Yeah.
And so you have to know where you were and where you are, because if you're ultimately trying to connect with someone based on where you want to go, but you're not there yet, that's kind of the wrong path. And if you don't want to share who you were because you now want to only be known as who you are, then that's a hard connect too, because psychology just shows we connect to those that are a couple levels above where we currently are, but we need to know that they experienced what we experienced.
Yeah.
Right. So intentional energy towards who you were, who you are, and who you want to be is really the start to a personal brand. Once we get a little bit of direction on that, then obviously you got to post, man. Like you got to post, and perfection is not the key when it comes to posting, especially in this day and age. I've been reading tons of articles how so much content is so polished now that people are just desperate for raw, authentic, unedited stuff.
Yeah.
There's a guy named Sam, I forget his last name. He's a bodybuilder guy, and his YouTube page went from he had like 8,000 followers to 3.5 million followers in 2 months.
Wow.
By posting raw, unedited, uncut, 30 to 60 minute videos of him eating and working out.
Wow.
And going to the grocery store to buy the food to eat.
Yeah.
But it just being behind the scenes with him has been impactful for people. So first get clear on who you were, who you are, and who you want to be, and then start taking action, because the only way you're going to get good at the social media game is by experiencing the social media game. You got to get in it. So two things around there. As far as developing, strong and powerful relationships, you almost want to follow the exact same path.
Yeah.
Get an idea of who you are, and where you want to go, and then start to participate in the journey of those who you believe are a level or two above that can help get you, whether it's, you want to be stronger in your faith, then find someone who's one or two tiers above where you're at when it comes to your faith, and start locking in with these people. The key is to make sure that you add value into their lives. So it takes study, right? Like, you've got to get an understanding what makes this person move, what makes them tick, what's valuable to them, and then how can I feed into that? It might be what's valuable to them is they like having conversations on social media, so make sure to comment on their posts.
Yeah.
Right. That's one way to get closer. It may be what's valuable to them is that they have a $29 a month product that maybe you're interested in, maybe you're not, but ultimately it can get you one step closer to creating it, to possibly building a relationship. I have a very strong relationship with Dave Meltzer now. Dave Meltzer came on my show as a guest, as a podcast guest. And I just knew, I'm like, dude, I got to get closer to this guy. So at the end of the call, I'm like, how do I get closer to you? Like, I'm just letting it, like, what matters to you so I can get closer to you?
Yeah.
And he's like, hey man, I've got this mastermind thing. It's $2,000 a month, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, great. And luckily for me, I was fortunate enough to be in a position to be able to afford that. So I jump in at $2,000 a month. Fast forward, I don't pay him $2,000 a month now, but him and I are like best friends, and we travel around together. I've had amazing experiences with him. And so I would just suggest, do a little bit of homework. Who do you want around you? And then figure out what's valuable to them and how you can participate in that. And then ultimately just start getting closer to these people. And most importantly, like we mentioned earlier, make sure that you're more interested than interesting.
Yeah.
And the relationships will develop at that point.
Absolutely. David Meltzer's a great guy. I also had him on the podcast. I think it was that was also a while ago too. I think that was before he even had his mastermind thing, but he is an incredible guy who has some rags to riches
for sure
stories of their own, which shows you that there can be a formula for it to happen, right? If he can do it once, lose it, and do it over and over again, then it can happen.
And it aligns perfectly with what we just shared. So let's use Dave Meltzer as an example, right? I felt drawn to David Meltzer because he shared who he was.
Yeah.
He shares who he is, and he shares where he's trying to go. He's a couple tiers above me as far as the business acumen and success that he's had.
Yeah.
And so because I know he can relate with the who he was piece.
Yep.
And because I know who he is now and where he is on that hierarchy of success that from my perspective.
Yeah.
And then him and I have similar visions of where we want to go. So by sharing those three things, he's able to attract me into his ecosystem. Yeah. And then I go in and serve him with what, matters most. And ultimately we end up with a powerful relationship. So that is a perfect example, step by step, of how the personal branding leads to the relationships, and then how to take those relationships to the next level.
Perfect.
That's good how that came around. That's strong.
That was excellent. That's a strong finish right there. And
yes, I agree, man. I agree.
Glenn, I want to thank you for taking some time
of course.
And sharing your knowledge with the viewers of the Fixed Ops Mastermind. How can people connect with you? And for those that want to get closer to Glenn Lundy, how can they do that?
Yeah, GlennLundy.com is always a great place to start, and or just type Glenn Lundy in Google, and for some reason I'm like the only Glenn Lundy in America that cares about social media. So you type Glenn Lundy in Google, I'll pop up. If you like Instagram, join me there. If you like Facebook, hang out there. Wherever you want to hang out, I'm there. I promise.
Good stuff. Glenn, thank you again. We are grateful for your time.
Thanks, David. Great to see you, man.
You too.
All right, take care.